I was in Cochrane, outside Cochrane at paintballing for my stepbrother's bachelor party, and this guy offered me a ride to stretch my legs out for a bit. Oh, I definitely stretched my legs out for a bit. Back in Star's helicopter.
Something happens in your life that is unexpected, unwanted, and I can't remember, unwelcome or whatever. Consider it just might be a gift.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 26 of the Good People, Bad Intentions podcast. And today, as our guest, I have two guests. I have Brandon Chase, as well as his mother, Pam Davis, on the show. Now, for anybody that's not familiar with Brandon's story, he is somebody who, unfortunately, in 2015, had been in an accident involving a drunk driver, and since then has had a severe brain injury as well as a lack of mobility due to this accident. But that has not stopped Brandon from his road to recovery. He's gone from somebody who had been in a coma and had to relearn how to walk, how to talk, and now, as you'll see if you follow him on Instagram, he is running like he had done previously when he was in rugby. He's going to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class at Tilt MMA, and he's also continuing to be an inspirational person by being a motivational speaker and speaking at events, in which case you will see him hopefully at the Calgary Stampede coming up in July. I'm going to be asking him about that and more. And what I really want to focus on in this episode is trying to extract some lessons that everybody else can take away from, because not everybody has obviously been in his shoes, but I think we can learn a lot from asking these kind of questions. So without further ado, guys, here's Brandon and Pam. Hey, Brandon, as well as hey, Pam. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks for having us.
I really appreciate you coming on there, Brandon. I just want to start out by saying I kind of found out about your story through the Fight League Atlantic. You know, Derek Clark, or Cat Clark as he's known.
Yeah.
He shared a couple of your motivational posts from your Instagram page. And then later on, I saw that you were also on the Mick Dojo Live Instagram page. You were doing, you did a live show with him, sharing your story. And I thought it was a no-brainer to have you on the podcast, because I really do believe that you have a message that everybody can benefit from hearing. And I want to again thank your mom Pam for coming on. She's going to be kind of in the background in case Brandon needs any help or anything like that. She can fill in some of the gaps. So I really appreciate you coming on there as well, Pam. And thank you for coming on there, Brandon.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thank you very much. I'm honored.
Now I had looked at some previous podcasts that have already talked about your story, and I definitely want to spend some time talking about it. But what I really want to focus that's different on this podcast is maybe some of the major takeaways that everybody that's listening to your story can have. Because one thing I noticed is, you have a really awesome Instagram page, Roadrunner142 on Instagram. Are you a big Roadrunner fan?
I made a couple for my car crash called Roadrunner142 because of the cartoon, right? I was probably 11 years old. And so what happened, I got hit by an SUV afterwards, and a few people laughed at when I told them my story, and they chuckled at it, not laughed. They chuckled at it when I told them my story, and just follow me on Instagram, Roadrunner142. And I'm like, what's so funny? It's like, you got hit by an SUV, and Instagram account is Roadrunner142. I'm like, good point.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And one thing I really love there, Brandon, is what your bio says. It says, I'm just a G in the gi that got hit by a SUV, but I'm still training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So STFU and train.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed before we even get into your story, Brandon, you have this attitude that not a lot of people have, where you're constantly pushing forward. You know, you've had some unfortunate things happen in 2015, and we're going to get to that. But before I start, where do you get that kind of motivation to continue? Where does that come from? Is that how you've always been growing up?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, probably. I'll say that. I like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? And it's mom, yes, too, right? And most of it is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and working on the technique makes you perfect it, and yeah, make sure you just keep going and never give up on yourself. You're
motivated.
It motivates me. Yeah, it motivates me.
And we had some private conversations. And it seems to me that you're also a fan of MMA. Did you get into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because of being a fan for MMA, or did you know the sport of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu first?
Probably because of UFC. The Rogan,
yes, okay.
Otherwise, I saw those guys, and I found out there was a school in Spanish Bay near where I used to live in Big Roberts, and I went there, and the rest is history. So yeah.
And you're originally from Newfoundland, correct?
I'm actually originally from Calgary. I moved to Newfoundland when I was 10 years old with my family. My mom's from there, so yeah.
Okay, so probably, do you find you have some people they're trying to call you a person from Calgary, and sometimes they're trying, because I've seen some articles where they call you a Newfoundlander, Brandon Chase, and then other times, you're is it the term Calgarian or?
Calgarian, yeah.
Calgarian.
That was probably because my CBC Newfoundland saw me first, and they brought Newfoundland right first, so I'm a crossbred. I am crossbred, and I crossbred, and I graduated high school there, so can't say I'm a half mainlander and half East Coaster.
Because somebody that I train with and is from Newfoundland, do you know of Gavin Tucker?
Yeah,
the governor Tucker?
He doesn't like me that much, though. Yeah, he actually got me blocked on Instagram because because you tell him this too if you want.
Yeah, he's probably listening.
Yeah. He had me blocked on Instagram because I told him that I was talking to Gavin Tucker on Instagram before, right? Before he blocked me. And he told me that he dropped down to 135 pounds. And I told that to Akeem. And Akeem's like, smart move. Akeem told me smart move, right? So I'm like, go on Instagram. I'm a big fight fan, right? So I
yes.
Fisticuffs. So I'm like,
yes.
Not thinking much of it. Just I get hit by an SB. I believe it's very personal, right? I get hit by the horse and the punches. Unfortunately. But
I don't want to speak, but I know Gavin. I wonder if there was a bit of a misunderstanding. I know he's a really nice guy. I'd love to be maybe able to see if I can do something about that, because he is a big part of the Newfoundland scene for MMA. I mean, I know he trains in Halifax, Titans MMA, and then he's also now been going to Montreal and TriStar and the PI right now.
Yeah, me and Peter Martel. I always wish Peter Martel, I'm like, good luck to Gavin's upcoming fight, right? And he said, thank you.
Yes.
So he's like, anytime you're in Halifax, drop down for a roll, right? So I'm like, cool. But I'm misunderstanding, right? Because, well, it's all good, right? I've been to a lot worse, and people got blocked me on Instagram because of that, right?
No. Good. And I loved how you're already showing through that, this incident that we are going to get into has really shaped your perspective. And I love what you're saying where, maybe if somebody hasn't gone through something like you have, that would be their biggest problem, that somebody blocked them on Instagram or isn't talking to them. They look up to somebody and maybe they aren't what they say they are or thought that they were. But can we just let the cat out the bag, so to speak? So from just to set kind of the scene, from my understanding, it was in 2015 that this accident had taken place, and you were just out of Calgary, Alberta. And can you kind of fill in the rest of the background story about the accident?
Certainly, we'll do. I was bachelor party for my bachelor for when I was in Cochrane, outside Cochrane at paintballing for my stepbrother's bachelor party, and this guy offered me a ride to stretch my legs out for a bit. Oh, I definitely stretched my legs out for a bit. Back in Stars helicopter.
Okay.
Stars helicopter. And thank God I don't remember that. So I tell you what happened now. My driver, I'll pull a legal U-turn, and I'll come SUV traveling at 107 kilometers an hour, hit me on my passenger side. It's crazy I even survived, right? The doctor did not think I'll even survive. And he lied to me and my brother, apparently. My brother told me this afterwards. He told me that he said to my brother came up, me and my brother were at the passenger side of the car outside, and we told him, he said to me, we were talking to this guy, and he told us that he was so rough to drive me back home. Well, he wasn't, he lied. So yeah. Well, if you adults, you can drive, and always watch who you're out with, because not everyone's gonna be there for you, right? No. So yeah.
And hey, I really appreciate you sharing that information. I know it probably doesn't get any easier saying that, because from the interviews that I've gathered, it seems like at the beginning you didn't really have a lot of memory as far as what happened, and you had a period where you were unconscious for a while.
Yeah, I was.
And
yeah.
Can you kind of talk about what and maybe your mom would be the perfect person to step in on this particular part. What was the original diagnosis, or what were the doctors originally thinking that was going to happen after the accident?
So originally they did not give much hope for Brandon's survival at all because of his injuries. And when we arrived from Newfoundland, he had already been through the surgery, the initial surgery. Stars airlifted him to the Foothills Hospital, and they basically barely made it. He was coding as they arrived there. And his injuries, he had a traumatic brain injury, which is probably the most severe injury. He had, lacerated arteries, so he had bled a lot. He had very low blood pressure, low to, from all the bleeding, and his pelvis was shattered. And he just, he had brain bleed in his brain as well. So they basically spent several hours trying to patch him up. His urethra as well was torn away from his bladder. At that time, they didn't even know that, but he was in the OR for an extended period of time. They, put his pelvis somewhat back together using external fixation. They stopped the bleeding and were able to, get him to the ICU. And when we arrived, they basically were saying, he's still alive now, but we're not sure of where this is going to go. Basically told us not to get our hopes up. And he was not responsive. He's, neurologically, he did not have any response even to deep, painful stimulus. And as the days went on, they continued to tell us that even if he did survive, he likely would not be in much more than a vegetative state. So there was really little hope given to us at the time by the doctors. But for all that, I was fortunate in that I had worked in Calgary before, and I had a strong network of friends who were still there in the system, who kept me, up and helped me maintain hope and never, ever gave up on hope through all of this. And look at him now.
Yeah.
It was quite amazing, actually, watching the whole. And Brandon remained in a coma for several weeks. Then he was semi-conscious for several more weeks before he finally showed us that there was something in there, and he was coming around. He was coming back. It took a while to get there, and once he did, things just kind of went.
And am I correct in assuming, because I've seen some description of what happened with Brandon, and they use the term decapitation.
So he had an injury called atlanto-occipital dislocation. And basically that is from the impact, the ligaments in his neck were all separated on impact.
Okay.
So it's the equivalent of a decapitation, because there's nothing then to protect your spine. So basically, had he been moved the wrong way, during that frontline management even, he could have been totally paralyzed. Most people do not survive atlanto-occipital dislocation. How many people die, Brandon? 70%
70% die. Like that, yeah.
At the scene, and then usually only about 15% are surviving enough to go to possibly become rehabilitated. So really, that diagnosis was probably the scariest, because the fact that he was still there, showed that he was managed properly from the outset.
And I'm so glad to hear about what you said about when this happened, that you had a network of people in the Calgary area that were able to give you some hope, and also to try and help everything that they could do. And this was a question, just thinking about, trying to put myself in a bit of your shoes going through this. What we have experienced with Brandon is nothing short of a miracle. I mean, like you said, 70% of people don't survive this type of injury, and that's crazy to think about. With this whole experience that we're talking about, was there any type of connection that you were able to make with, it being a miracle, maybe a spiritual significance, or, what goes through your minds when such a negative maybe thing at the beginning turns out that he has quite the recovery?
Well, interestingly enough, I mean, there were many, as tragic and as awful as this was, there were so many gifts along the way. And the continual recovery and gains that Brandon made after the initial trauma, of course. But a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, she sent me this little inspiration in the early days, as Brandon started to show some antibiotics. And at first, when she sent that, I really just kind of dismissed it. And then many things happened along the way. First of all, there was, for me, having the network of people who helped me, being in a hospital like the Foothills, which is a center of excellence for neuro problems and problems such as Brandon had. I mean, there couldn't have been a better place for him to be. If you're going to have those injuries, he was in the best place. If you're going to have an accident on the roadside, you need to be somewhere where there is STARS, an organization like STARS. If it were not for STARS, Brandon would not have survived. So all those little things lined up, and then another thing my friend gave me was this little medallion. It was a little holographic thing, and it had hope written on it, and the Hebrews, number from the part of the Bible, whatever that talks about. She gave that to me, and it would just turn up at the oddest times. It would be in my purse, in my pocket, not being aware that it was there. I would put my hand in my pocket and pull out this little button that had this hope written on it. And those kinds of things, yes, lead me to think that there absolutely was, something more, something bigger going on here for us. There have been so many messages and, again, gifts along the way that, and it's still, coming. Those things are still happening, I should say.
And again, I really appreciate you sharing that, because that was kind of, before the interview, that was kind of what I was thinking. Again, trying to put myself in your shoes, and now knowing a little bit more of the information. I mean, yeah, it seems like everything, it was obviously an awful event, but there was a lot of things and hands that were, there you could see or maybe not be able to see, that seemed to be helping Brandon get to the point where he is now. So I'm really grateful that these things happened, and he was able to have a wonderful recovery. And now I want to switch back to Brandon and just ask you, going back to those times where, because if I'm not mistaken, you had to learn almost everything all over again. Going back to those times, I can only imagine that was a very frustrating point in your life, where you had to do something that most people don't have to do, and maybe do take for granted. And maybe if we go back to what we were saying earlier about, being blocked on Instagram or whatever, people's issues maybe are a little different, at the age of 21 years old, which I think is the age you were when this happened.
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that, like how you felt when you were learning all this stuff, and how you felt looking at everybody else around your age and what they were going through and struggling with, and maybe it being a little bit different?
Well, to tell you the truth, I had no idea. When I first looked up what was going on, what happened to me, right? Like, I had my brain injury. I don't remember my car crash, thank God. I was looking up and like what had happened to me, right? And I was scared. I thought I was paralyzed, right? So yeah, I see people at my age, 21 years old, partying. I'm partying up, and it's crazy that I went through so traumatic, and it affects me with bars to tell my story to people, and maybe be old guys with girls sometimes, and I just lay back, and people think I'm drunk at the bars. I had 3 bars or 3 beers, and I get drunk faster. So be very careful with that, right? So it's very challenging for me, right, to be socially acceptable.
And your balance and coordination.
Balance and coordination, yeah.
Make it appear.
Yeah, make it appear I'm drunk. And guys, like a guy yesterday said, I get tired of saying it over again, I have brain injury, right? And guys like, are you drunk? You're hammered. I'm like, no, I have a brain injury. And I said that word, but, and he's, oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, no worries, it's all good. You didn't know. Have a good night. And yeah, it's just very frustrating. Going down the stairs and just, I hear all the time. So I don't go out that much anymore. I don't get in trouble. So yeah, it affects my speech, my balance, and people think I'm drunk, and all the time. And I have jinx every now and again, right? But not much anymore, no.
And I'm sorry to hear that people are making these assumptions, obviously not knowing the story, but this is something that, most people don't have to deal with people thinking that they're drunk all the time because of the fact that they were in this accident. And have you had like I'm just curious, before this accident had even happened, as a person, do you think you understood what you're going through now, or was this all a new experience about brain injury and maybe some form of disability? Was this a whole new thing? Like when this happened to you at 21 years old, did you know anything about this prior? Did you have anybody in your family that maybe had a disability?
No. No one, no. No one did, no. No one had a disability like a brain injury, or it's a brand new experience. And I'm happy no one else in my family experienced it before. I don't wish that on anyone, especially my family members, right? So I'm very fortunate I'm alive and tell my story to as many people as possible. And yeah, but I don't wish it happened to me on anyone because I was so very close to not even be here, right? And let alone walking and talking again. Some people with brain injuries can't talk at all. Can't even talk or walk, so very grateful.
And what I think is really incredible is not only can you now talk, but you have been a motivational speaker. You have had many opportunities to share your story and inspire others. Of course, there's the broadcast that we had mentioned where you were on the news, and then the podcast and the times and the occasions where you spoke. Was this something before the accident? Were you a speaker, or is this a skill that you've learned through everything you've gone through?
That was brand new. I never was a speaker. I always was a quiet person in high school. And this speaking experience is a really eye-opener. I did try this, whatsoever. Like, the accident really changed my life, right? And I was sure at first I just worked hard. I didn't know what to do. I just worked hard. I know what my injuries were at first. I think mom told me that. Mom told me that my injuries. So I continued working hard because that's how I knew I was working hard, right? And thank God that the stars saved my neck, right? Because I would be dead if it was for stars and the first responders. Because what happened was, the other guy that used to work for stars, first responders called stars and put them on high alert. And then they ride their crew ready to dispatch to Cochrane and take me to Philadelphia Hospital in 7 minutes flat. So yeah.
But the guy.
Are you able to, Pam, maybe talk about STARS as an organization, if you can, just for anybody that's not familiar with what STARS does?
Yeah, STARS is the air ambulance in Western Canada, I guess, Alberta and BC and Saskatchewan too. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, and they travel with a very high-end team. Like there's a doctor, an ICU nurse, and a paramedic, and of course a pilot and a co-pilot. So they actually brought us to the base camp after Brandon was in his wheelchair. We were able to go and we looked inside the helicopter, the actual helicopter that transported Brandon, and I could not envision Brandon's 6'5" body in there with 3 people working on him and a pilot and co-pilot. It's unreal. And they travel, like, of course, they can do many things during that flight that a regular road ambulance would not be able to do. They carry blood. Brandon had to have blood transfused en route. Brandon, at one point, both of his lungs were filled with blood. One lung had collapsed, and they were not able to ventilate him. So the resident doctor who was there actually did a thoracotomy en route. So they basically cut between his ribs to help release the pressure, and they were able to ventilate him. I mean, if those measures, if they were not able to do that, he would not have survived. So STARS Ambulance is an amazing organization, and basically they are our heroes. And when Brandon was mentioning the first people who came on the scene, the first ambulance, they were out of Cochrane. The guy who was there in the ambulance who responded had worked previously with STARS. So again, he knew exactly what to do. Not that others wouldn't, but he had been witness to this type of scenario many times over. So there could not have been a better person responding to Brandon's accident at the time.
And I think that, they definitely would have to be heroes because they're responding to multiple things that was going on with Brandon at the time. And I can't imagine the level of stresses that they were going through too, because I can't lie that this is all terms, everything that I'm learning, this is a miracle that has gone through. And I think it's very rare in at least my life to be able to be around a living miracle. So I want to say again, it's an honor to have you guys on here, because I think this story, especially during the times that we're having right now, where there can be a lack of hope with things going on, that you Pam, had hope in your son, getting through everything that he went through, and he did. And that's a amazing story.
Well, interestingly enough, too, you're asking Brandon how he felt seeing other people out there at his age. And, he doesn't remember all the details, of course, even surrounding the early days of his recovery, but he was so very frustrated at not being able to do things, not being able to stand up, not being able to walk. And sometimes, with his brain injury, he would be so frustrated that, he would have outbursts related to that. And one thing he kept saying over and over again was, I just want to run again. I just want to run. And back in those early days when he wasn't walking, when he was in a lift, saying that he wanted to run again just seemed so far down the road. But, he always had that hope. And we never said, well, you're not going to run again, Brandon. Of course, come on, let's get real here. We never said that. We might have wondered, well, what's it going to look like? Because, his pelvis was totally shattered. And he had, has pins in his hips and his back, and to hold things together. But he has just posted, I don't know if you saw this, a picture on Instagram of him running in his gym, a video with holding a rugby ball. And I'm like, wow, like unreal, like really from those early days to now. He said that, I just want to run again. And now he's out there, doing it. So hope, never give up hope. Ever.
And having that, I'd imagine, Brandon, like when you were, I don't know if you can remember at those stages where you were saying you wanted to run, were you visualizing in your head that you were going to, like, did you see that you were going, because a lot of people say when they're recovering, you have to see it yourself in order for it to happen. Did you feel that was your case, or was there times where it felt like you might not be able to run again? Or
well, to be quite frankly, no one told me I had to walk or talk, walk. It's not talk, walk, and run again. Or no one told me that, so I just kept pushing, kept working hard. I gave up myself, and I was transferred to Foothills for 9 months, Mom, right?
8 months, yeah.
8 months, and I moved to Pinocchio, Alberta.
Brain Injury
Center in Albert Johnson, it's called. And there's like mental health, brain injury, and seniors home. Seniors.
You were there for the rehab.
Yeah, there for rehab, yeah. And all I did there was rehab. But yeah, it was my job, right? And it's very tough because very tough. But I kept pushing, and then more rehab, and more rehab. And I'm grateful I never gave up on myself. I'm happy that it all worked out.
You were there for 14 months.
I was there for 14 months. Yeah. 14 months, a year of my life.
So after he was discharged from the hospital, after 8 months, he spent another 14 months in residential rehab. He lived there and rehabbed there.
Wow. Yeah. So that you spent quite a long time in rehab to get to where you are. And I was gonna try to again bring it back to something you love, mixed martial arts. I mean, how many times do you hear, or even boxing or any sport, how many times do you hear about a fighter that gets an ACL injury, or something happens to their ankle, or McGregor, it's his shin bone, something happens like that, and they say, everybody, their first comment is, he's done. He's not gonna recover. His career's over. And then, you'll see a lot of those fighters, they'll be like George St. Pierre, Conor McGregor, they come back before they were even expected to for an injury or whatever. when you see your, the sport that you follow, people are having that level of recovery, and then you're having to again learn things that people don't usually have to relearn. You have to go through this immense amount of rehab. I mean, what is your perspective as a sports fan now? Do you feel like some people are making issues a little bigger than what they really are?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, but yeah, again, martial arts that's like UFC punch someone in the face. That's pretty tough too, right? I
True.
don't get punched in the face. All I got hit by an SV once, thank God. So, yeah, so that's a plus, I guess.
Yes.
But
And sorry to cut you off. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not a striking martial art, but there is some level of contact involved with it. And I'm just curious. Maybe Pam would be able to answer this better. But was there any level of hesitancy for Brandon to get into this sport? And Brandon, what was it like starting Brazilian? Did you start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after the accident or before?
before I was in Newfoundland, I was in high school.
Okay.
And I was bored and all that stuff, and I was in Spanish Bay area, at school Spanish Bay in Newfoundland, and I went to Foley's Mixed Martial Arts. Foley's was a good gym. I trained there with Jamie Bursey and Kelly, his wife, and Justin Gear, and Alan Moore, and Mark Bloom, and yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, it was good. I was a teenager. I had a lot of testosterone, and it really helped me with my testosterone.
Actually, when Brandon moved to Alberta, that was one of his goals. He wanted to train at many different gyms. That was one of his goals prior to his car crash. And when he was in hospital, still at the foothills, do you mind if I tell that story?
Yeah.
A friend of his, a guy who he had only met, a couple of times, maybe once or twice, found out about Brandon's story, but that he'd been, in this severe car crash, and he came to the hospital to see Brandon. He brought him his whole collection of MMA videos. He brought him a mini DVD player. He brought him a set of fight gloves, I believe.
Yeah.
And he told Brandon that he was going to help get him back on the mats again. This guy was from Red Deer. His name is Tyler Davis, and he was amazingly good to Brandon. He's just an amazing, support to him. And that is like the MMA, that is like the community. I mean, they just are so much there for each other. That it just was a real eye-opener for me. I had no idea. And Tyler continued to, check in on Brandon. And at one point, so he first came around, I think it was in the fall, probably around November or so. And there was a big fight coming up in Alberta. And he told Brandon he was going to take him to this fight at the, what was the arena? Hard Knocks fight in Calgary.
And it was.
I can't remember the name of the arena.
It was.
Anyway.
Yeah, it was like the Olympic social.
Yeah, out by the Olympic.
Olympic Oval.
No, it wasn't the Olympic Oval. But anyways, that's irrelevant. So Tyler booked a limousine to come to the hospital.
Wow.
To pick Brandon up. They got dressed up in their suits, and Tyler made a huge big deal. He got them ringside seats, and the limousine came and rolled out the red carpet. Brandon and Tyler got in the limousine and drove off to the arena for the fights. It was amazing. And of course, he wasn't on the mats at that point, but shortly after that, when Brandon was in Halvard Johnson, Tyler showed up at the Halvard Johnson Brain Injury Center with a whole bunch of mats, and they started rolling on the floor, just gently. But he got, Brandon back into the groove, and he actually brought him to some gyms because he was a professional fighter himself. So he knew people in the community, and Brandon went to Red Deer to a couple of different places there where he was able to train with Tyler coaching him. And it just totally blew me away. His dedication and how kind he was.
Brandon, are you able to speak a little bit more about Tyler and your relationship with him? Because that's an amazing thing that he was doing for you. Is you still keep in contact?
Oh yeah, we're still in contact. He's I think working somewhere else now, but we're still in contact. Nice, good buddy of mine. Best kind, as Newbie says. He's best kind, very nice guy. He's best kind, right?
And when he shows up, whenever he's around, he comes in.
He comes, yeah, whenever he's in Red Deer, he's in Red Deer, so he's kind of far away from Calgary. But anytime he's in Calgary area, he drops by for a visit. So I'm honored for my friendship that Tyler brought to me. And yeah, I actually met Tyler Davis in a flight car once before my car crash, and I was at the urinal. And urinal, and I said, "Oh, you're Tyler Davis, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm a big MMA fan, right? So I'm like, "It's Tyler Davis. Oh my God!" I searched up his name on Tabology before my car crash in 10 and 2, and he actually has the same name as my last name as my mom, Davis, right?
Okay.
So that was cool, and I thought he was from Newfoundland first or from whatnot, but no, he's from BC originally. And yeah, we started at the urinal, and rest is history.
Yeah.
That's history. Very nice guy.
And I'm really glad that that connection was made. That he was able to still give you some tools to do something that you really have a passion for and love. And what I want to ask now is, we've had conversations where, you still go to the gym and then you go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when you can. And what do you, because I see you're lifting weights, you're squatting, you're running on the treadmill. Is there anything you can't do?
Not to get by SB again.
Yes, that's a good answer.
Yeah, but take day by day. Very important, and gotta stay humble. But yeah, I'm happy that everything worked out for me, and keep pushing. And I still need some work to do, relationship-wise, with girls and all that stuff.
Yes.
I get mad fast sometimes too. I work on my friendship with my stepbrother because I got mad that this is his wedding before. And yeah, so we'll still need some work on my brain injury. Brother-in-law, yeah. Still need some work, but hopefully we patch some things up when I'm back in Newfoundland again. But it's hard with a brain injury, right? But I'm working towards independence and being a better person.
And I wanted to ask, and maybe this is too personal of a question, so we don't have to air it. But when somebody goes through an accident, of course we were talking about the physical things that happen to you, but that is a lot of trauma as far as going through that and the emotions and the life alteredness of it. When you as time progresses, are you able to look at the situation differently, or does your initial feelings about what happened, is that still how you feel about it? And more so, I'm talking about the driver, because I realized that he had he survived the accident, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He did,
and he was incarcerated because of this.
He was incarcerated, drunk.
90 days. No, was he penalized?
Was he penalized?
But I penalized for 9 days on a weekend. That's all he got. And
Really?
I really don't wish what happened to me or anyone. And like I said before, and you asked me about the same person asked before.
How you looked at
Calvin. differently because I'm walking now, right? I'm shaking now because of my brain injury, but
Yes, of course.
but I look at I think Calvin as well because it made me stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you just said, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger," or
Yes.
well, I forget what exactly they said, but together we get stronger, I think. But yeah, it's like that motto, and yeah, it's good.
Brandon has this every now and then. He has this involuntary twitching that occurs.
Okay.
As well, so it's yeah.
It has nothing to do with the duration that we're doing, by the way. Like,
No,
no, you're not in any pain or anything. We are pretty close to time, so it's not. Yeah, but
no, luckily I have no pain. Like,
awesome,
very fortunate
awesome,
regard.
so
perfect.
I think Brandon has somewhat, over time. I mean, there was a time when he was very angry. You could not mention the driver's name
Yeah,
without
Yes.
you having a major breakdown. Really, right?
shaking my head.
Oh, he was just he
Mhm.
would. One of the things with his brain injury, he has what is called perseverative behavior. So you get something and you hang on to it over and
Mhm.
over and over again. It keeps coming
Mhm.
back, and you can't. You go from one thing that you're stuck on to something else. And for a while, for him, it was this driver. Uh, but over time, I think as things kind of evolved and you started to get your life back, I think he was able to let go of a lot of that anger. I think, and yeah,
And I'm very glad to hear that because when I'm asking like a lot of these questions, I realized that all of the reactions that we were just talking about, I believe are very normal. When something like that happens to somebody, those emotions, I wouldn't say anybody would not have those things.
no. So
And
throw in the
I'm
brain injury,
yes.
right?
And I'm just so grateful that you're willing to share this stuff because I think when people again, some of the takeaways that we're getting from talking about this is again, it's all about perspective and knowing that somebody might be going through something as you had, which was a very difficult situation, and seeing how you were able to, recover through it and persevere and work hard. That is amazing in and of itself. But then also when we're talking about you know the long term, looking at the whole situation and be able to kind of drop a little bit of that anger, that rage, and just let the emotions just drop and be able to live in a little bit more peace and harmony. I think that also gives us hope as individuals that no matter what we go through, there might be a time in life later on down the road where we're able to decompress and have a better outlook on things.
Yeah.
And I want to just towards the end of the episode, I want to end things on a little bit more of a light note. Of course, you're a big MMA fan, so I want to ask you maybe what are some of your favorite fighters that maybe they don't have to be fighting today, but growing up, watching when you were
GSP.
getting into MMA. GSP.
Yeah, GSP.
I see you
Yeah.
got the Hayabusa rash guard going on.
Yeah.
Represent.
I had a sweater on before,
Mm-hmm.
but I got dirty, so I switched to this. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
John Donner now.
I like that actually. That's good.
Yeah, I'm John Donner now. I'm wearing rash guard, so I can wear rash guard.
Are you gonna get the John Donahair haircut too?
Shave the head to me, they shave my
Yeah.
head. Props, oh,
the the
I'm,
Donahair Death Squad is like one of the biggest Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu teams, and it's crazy that GSP was able to work with Donahair during his career. Are you a fan of Gordon? Gordon from yes, Gordon Ryan from the Donahair.
I know he is, and I know he is. I'm a big fan of Sunny because she's a very attractive girl.
Yes,
But
yes.
but Gordon seems like he's best kind, very nice guy, I guess. So yeah, I know he doesn't like Galveo, Andrew Galveo that much. See on his Instagram account or on YouTube all the time.
And I remember he wasn't getting along with Dylan Dennis for a while.
Yeah,
when Dylan Dennis was still.
Yeah, Dylan Dennis says all that stuff too, right? You know, you gotta realize that he's a kind of great pony boy. So he says,
I think when I said Dylan Dennis's name, his head moved up in real life. Like he heard somebody talking about him because he likes to chatter. He likes to chatter.
He's from New York too, right? You gotta realize that he's from New York and he likes to all about himself, right? Makes sense?
True. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
He's like telling you almost.
And would you have like both are retired now? A lot of people, when GSP was still flirting with coming back after winning the middleweight belt, there was talks about him maybe fighting against Khabib Nurmagomedov, of course, before his father had passed and he had retired as well. Who do you think would have won in their prime, GSP versus Khabib?
I think he'd be seriously.
Yes.
GSP is scared to fight, but you won't win. I think. I think GSP will win. I'm biased too. I'm Canadian. And I met George St-Pierre once in New
Okay.
And,
what was that like?
Very nice guy. He told my story, and I told him that I met Brendan Shaw twice actually. And so my arms are shaking.
Yeah, no problem.
And I told GSP that I met Brendan Shaw twice. And very nice guy, and I told Brendan Shaw my story, and he might actually want me on the podcast. I'd be honored if he did.
Yes.
But GSP's a very nice guy. He's very humble, and
you want to know how people describe? I've heard a couple people describe him. He's like a grandma that can choke you out. He's such a nice guy. You wouldn't know that he's a world-class fighter, a champion. On some people's number one lists for his all-time greats in the sport of MMA. I'm glad you were able to make that connection and meet him, because that would have been, we're talking about stars obviously being a hero, and I've heard also in interviews you talking about your mom being one of your heroes as well. And I can imagine meeting somebody like GSP, somebody that you look up to, the reason that you have this passion that you got into, that must have been a very fulfilling moment as well.
100%, yeah. It's very, very cool to meet him, and I told him Brendan Shaw met me twice, and he wrote it down, and
Brendan
nice
Schaub's a bike guy now, eh? He's always on the bicycles.
Yeah.
The thick boy, isn't that what it? Everybody's got the shirts.
Yeah, very, very nice guy. But GSP is very humble, and very nice guy. Very nice guy. I'm honored to meet him. I'm honored that I'm honored to be here. Just honored to walk. What I've been through, and I've been held back, so to speak. You really appreciate it. I really, even more, right? And it's
all little things
in life, So I'm very, very grateful.
And I know today or yesterday you were supposed to be on a podcast, and I know that it's been moved for the Stampede. Do you have any details for any of the listeners? Because I do have some people listening in Calgary, Alberta. Do you have any details as far as any upcoming gatherings or times you'll be speaking that people could attend?
I have going to be on a podcast in July. I got poster ahead. I was ready yet, but I want to get pictures ready for the podcast.
Awesome.
And that's No Pain Roofing guys. Mike Payne, very nice guy it seems. And I never met him before, but I saw him at a podcast, and I love to tell my story. So I'll be cool. I'll be honored to be on his podcast, and I'm gonna be on. Very fortunate. I'm in breakable whatsoever. I don't know which will happen to me on anyone, quite frankly, because it's very scary. Like I said, But I'm gonna be on CC Calgary the Stampede, hopefully.
Yes, that's a big. I tell you, I haven't been to the Stampede, but I hear it's like the Super Bowl of Alberta. Is that true? Like it's the biggest thing in the year.
Yeah, it's kind of it's good. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Sure draws a crowd.
Crowd, yeah. So and yeah, it brings a lot of girls, I guess, right? So it's good. Stampede is weird.
And another thing, I know you've done work with MAD. Is there any future things like will you be continuing to speak for them as an organization going in the future?
Yeah, 100%. I'm working. I actually haven't done moving face to face very yet because of the pandemic and all that stuff. But I'm supposed to see stars. Mad, so not Mad, not stars, Mad. And it's for I think June 1st, I think, for the group, and there's also another group called Youth Group for young adults like myself. And there's a girl that takes charge of that, Jamie. Hancock, a very nice girl. Jamie Hancock, I think is her name. Her last name, I don't know her first name Jamie, but last name's Hancock, I think. And she's a very nice girl, and I work in Steve Sullivan. It's a guy head coordinator for MAD Canada.
Okay.
So Brandon attends the virtual sessions every month. He attends virtual sessions. He's very involved and took that on himself in the early days, and he's a very strong advocate. So.
Well, Mom, sorry, Mom.
He was actually invited to speak at the National Symposium, right?
Yeah.
In December, and we went to Ontario, and he was on a panel and spoke there at this National Symposium back in December.
What was your nerves like when you were speaking at this National Symposium?
Well,
have you done anything? Have you had that amount of audience before?
Once for college, right? For college once.
Yeah, this was different. Yeah, it was very well organized. Actually, the people just really were so good at putting everybody else at ease. So Brandon just was himself.
Awesome.
And that just went over very well because that's just what you see is what you get.
Yes. And one thing I'm really glad that you have, Brandon, and not a lot of people do have. You have a good sense of humor. You're a very funny guy, and I think, and sometimes I like to make jokes too. I can't compare anything that I've gone through with what you've gone through, but what I can say is having that outlook, being able to crack jokes. As I said at the beginning of this on your bio, where you're saying that you're the G and the G that got hit in the SUV, being able to laugh and to have fun. I mean, these are the things that I think people need to do more of, and you do it yourself, and that's amazing.
Thank you. It's not always easy though. Like I'm not the same person I used to be. But like who would be, right? And brain injury, but I see things differently now, and I just gotta take day by day and enjoy every moment, just enjoy every day by day and enjoy every moment, stay humble and keep working towards the goals. And I'm absolutely honored to be on your podcast, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on your podcast.
And I want to keep the door open there, Brandon, because I do want to have you come back, and I do want to see the progress that you've been making at the gym, because I know you're always making progress there, and it's really inspiring. And I think it's crazy that you didn't do any speaking before, because to me you are a speaker. You are a natural speaker. You have a story, yes, but you also have, again, those qualities about yourself. You're a funny guy. You're able, it's amazing that I've had the opportunity to have a conversation with you for about an hour, as well as with your mom, Pam, and I look forward to seeing what the future has in hold for you.
Thanks, Matthew. Thanks again. Thank you.
And hey, thank you, Pam, also for coming on. I really appreciate you there being a support and supporting Brandon. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Put your face in there, Mom. Put your face in
there. Thank you. And I hope everybody enjoyed this episode of the podcast. I certainly did. As always, guys, if you're listening to this for the first time and you're a fan, make sure to subscribe on your preferred platform, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's Apple Podcasts, etc. That way, when a new episode comes out, you won't miss it. And for the YouTube audience, if you could comment, as well as share the video, that way it gets out there to more people. This is a very important message that we've covered today, and I would love to see Brandon have his platform increased and more opportunities for him to speak on his story. So without further ado, guys, hope you have a good rest of your day, whatever time you're listening to this, and we'll catch you next time. Bye.